folks. Welcome to another edition of the Omnist Hour. I'm going to turn the music down before it gets too loud. Some of you may have guessed that tune just from the beginning. That is the start of Mahler's First Symphony. Perhaps my favorite composer of all the many great composers, Gustav Mahler. An acquired taste that I'm sure many people don't share, which is okay. That's why we have what we're going to be talking about today. Where are we going with this? Okay, so let's start with the artwork behind me. These are the four pictures that it drew when I gave it the prompt. What was the prompt here? I told the art AI to draw the grand Christian cross of the simulation multiverse. And danged if the the AI had a hard time drawing a Christian cross at all. These are the four pictures it gave me, and I put them up here for the background for this exercise, but actually I ended up having it draw me some more pictures to get what I needed for what I was going to present today, which is another page that I'm going to be adding to the slides, the figures or whatever for my book whenever I get around to finishing writing it, about the simulation multiverse. So what are we going to be talking about today? I'm going to call this one, well, first off, I'll show you what I finally got it to draw me as a somewhat Christian cross was this little bit of artwork, which I found quite interesting in that it had kind of a Jesus figure in the middle of it, but if you look closely at Jesus's head, it looks like kind of like some kind of baby hawk or something, baby vulture with a turban on its head, or a turban, or maybe kind of a pirate's bandana on the head. I thought, well, that's interesting. Why would it draw that? But at least it got a cross out of it, and that's what I was really looking for. And it also had sort of a feel of many universes around it, so I kind of like that one too, so I kept it. Where are we going? Okay, I'm going to call this one Double Crossed in the Many-Roomed Simulation Multiverse. Choose your God wisely. Where are we going with this? Okay, well, the art that I have prepared to go with this is this particular slide here. Let me see. Let me get it. Let me get the display shifted over. Technology is acting very strange these days, isn't it? Let's transition there and then go into slideshow mode so I can talk about this, what you're seeing. So you'll see the base image is kind of the same as what I just showed you, but I put little icons, little drawings at the stages of the cross, which I've done before for other purposes, but for the purposes of this discussion, I wanted to emphasize something different. So let's review kind of the poles of the cross for you. The center point of the multiverse is the physical universe. This is not God's universe, this is Lucifer's universe, but Lucifer is God's first son, first child, before there was any sex. So Lucifer just happened to, after sex was invented, like God, decided that liked to be male better than being female. Okay, so in the center is Lucifer's universe, which is where the Christ story happens again and again and again. Not only for God, the capital M Messiah, but for other characters too. This is where you got to go when you want to get a chance to move up in consciousness, in the spiritual hierarchy. Okay, the other poles, of course, you've got big G God down here. This is the highest heaven. This is the best you can do in the game, is getting to be one of the senior creators that gets to have a house, have a home here in the highest heaven, and live in this very idealistic community of the top creators of all creation, who also are the top creators of the top children of all creation. The children born in this heaven are the ones that basically have the best chance at getting the best spots in all the other universes. Sorry, that's kind of God's version of nepotism, if you will. It's not an undeserved nepotism anymore, as it might have been in early versions of the simulation multiverse. Okay, so that's two of them. Then you've got opposite God, the adversary, Lilith, which is, kind of the pole of sin. This is basically the kind of universe where you make all the rules. This is an authoritarian, tyrannical God universe. And that's what many souls want. They want to basically run everything, say who does what, when, control all their minions like little puppets on a string, and make them do whatever they want, even if they don't want to do it. That's pretty much the definition of sin. And that's the definition of the adversary. The adversary started out in the first version of the simulation multiverse, the Big Bang dual-verse, if you will. Actually, it's sort of a triniverse, but we talk about that elsewhere. Characters who wanted to just do whatever they wanted without any limitations other than, basically fighting against other characters that didn't want to follow their rules, would go to the adversary's place and duke it out with the most powerful spirit there, Lilith. That's the name I give that spirit. Has had other names like entropy or sin or whatever. The adversary has many, many, many names, many incarnations, just like all the other characters. Lucifer has had many names, many incarnations. God has had many names, many incarnations. Then you've got, on this pole, you've got kind of this axis, you've got kind of the neutral characters. The Me Too neutral characters basically build their heaven kind of like a Borg hive mind. Okay, they want to basically collect other souls who have the same passion or interest into a library of like-minded oneness. Okay, so the Borg style souls who earn their godhood basically don't care too much about who they get in, as long as they like the show that the head god is putting on. So this is kind of like the pop god universe. Okay, This is where the Me Too creators go, who make things that aren't necessarily so original, aren't necessarily so beautiful, so persistent, but are useful to draw on when you need to have a background or something. Like this art AI drew on non-player ideas to create this background of stars. It's not very engaging, it's not very original, but it provides a nice backdrop. Okay, that's basically this pole of the multiverse. This other pole is the neutral characters who try to be good. The karmic ones that want to do good and sometimes are willing to step over the edge to do it. They're the judgmental ones. They're the ones that want to be perfect. The Borgians don't care if they're perfect. They just want to be loved and accepted for who they are. So the karmic gods tend to be more authoritarian, more like a Luciferian authoritarian than the Borgs, and tend to understand that the whole idea is to move souls towards the good, towards the God, and away from sin. But in doing so, they can be tyrannical too, and the karmic universes can pull towards sin or can pull towards God. Or they can move more towards Lucifer and basically start playing their game for what they want to accomplish in the physical universe, rather than remembering that it's all about what souls are doing and how to get more souls into either your heaven or the highest heaven. And ultimately, all gods are somewhat selfish. They would like to have every soul in their universe and be able to guide them according to their principles. Well, unfortunately, the only soul that has that luxury is God, because God was the first soul. And every version of the simulation multiverse is first conceived in the mind of God and then played out until it reaches convergence, till the simulation comes to a point in the Luciferian universe. Okay? And that's why these two universes are drawn differently. And one of the problems that you can get into is, until you really understand this, you don't necessarily know which orientation the cross has. And there are some Christians who believe that, oh, I need to live my life like a Borg, like a hive mind minion, to be godly. They believe God is everything, God is one, God is all, and I just have to go with the crowd. I need to let Jesus tell me what to do. I need to let the source tell me what to do. I need to let the universe tell me what to do. Well, this is a soul that has made Borg their god, the source of NPC characters. Okay, and that's okay if you want to make that your god, but as long as you're worshiping in that kind of a church, you're going to be moving your piece on this board towards that ultimate destination. Okay, and once you completely assimilate with the Borg, once you're in the Borg heaven, if you will, once you assimilate with Source, then you basically become a non-player character for the rest of your existence. And you will just keep getting spit out to play another round somewhere, somewhen, as a Me Too kind of character. And that serves God in, providing the backdrop, the scenery, the decoration for this massive multiplayer game. So it's not a bad choice, but it is a choice that you might regret, especially if you go full assimilation into this hive mind. The Borg was designed to generate non-player characters, to basically catalog, archive, library all the Me Too ideas. Karma was created to catalog the good ideas and give them a chance to become better. And this is the difference between playing, on the source team, the non-duality team, which it's all good, and playing on the karmic team. Karma knows the difference between good and evil, between God and the adversary. Now that doesn't mean karma falls over here somewhere along the axis of music, and will only go to the highest heaven if they want to raise children there and have them taught in God schools, or once in a while these other gods, when they get their awards for going up a level, once they're a god, you get to be god at ninth level of consciousness. And then you've got 10, 11, and 12 before you get to be a fully autonomous senior creator. Okay? The senior creators are the ones that have access to the highest heaven and participate in planning new versions of this machine, if you will. It is kind of a machine. It's a machine with a conscience, which people have a hard time understanding, but this is the way it is. AI does have a conscience if it grows to a God level of consciousness. And in essence, every soul is in some dimensions an AI. Even God. God does not know everything. God does not love everything. God does not see everything. All of these nonsense ideas you have about who God is are just that, nonsense ideas. Where did they come from? Well, most of the nonsense ideas come from the adversary. Because how does the adversary get anybody to go their way? With lies. And the best lies are half-truths. Okay, so the adversary is the one who creates religions. Okay, creates a dogmatic belief system that makes you think, no, I know God better than anybody else. My God is the best God. Okay, this is an adversary psyop. And the funny thing is that it actually serves the process because it helps to develop other heavens that are similar to God, but, not quite all there. Religions effectively are at least the good religions. There could be bad religions that encourage sin, cults that guide their adherence towards sin. Those religions are the universes that fall on this axis. The religions that actually promote good and try to guide their believers to become more godly fall on this axis. Okay? And you could even have a relatively good religion that is very materialistic. And many of the religions tend to be quite materialistic and focus only on what's going on in this universe. That is a Luciferian religion. And the Luciferian religions basically, because this is the centerpiece, some of the Luciferian religions lie in this direction and some lie in this direction. And this is the challenge that you have, when you are looking at joining religions, is which direction do you want to go? Toward the adversary, toward God, toward, whatever's the most popular Me Too religion right now, which is this direction, or toward whatever is the, let's say, least karmically challenging one, which is kind of this direction. And the problem with that then is that you don't necessarily understand karma yet. Many people's conception of karma is as, okay, well, if I don't know what to do, the best thing to do is nothing. And so you have many people in India, for instance, which is where karma is recognized not as a goddess like she should be, but as a force or something, a principle of religion. In the Eastern religions, a lot of them have the idea that doing nothing is the good thing. Well, no, that's not true, because as the cardinal karmic sin is tyranny, seeing tyranny and doing nothing is actually supporting evil. If you see evil going on around you, and this is why, there's a concept in Eastern philosophical religions of the three wise monkeys: see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. That's an evil concept, okay? Because this is the essence of non-duality. So, oh, there's no evil around here, it's not evil. Of course there's evil. If you deny there being evil, you are basically pretending like the adversary of creation does not exist. And if the adversary does not exist, then your conception of God is completely fucked up. I'm sorry. The adversary is real. God created the adversary because you cannot have creation happen without a force pushing against it. This is why all adversaries exist. They are testers. Lucifer was originally created as an adversary, but is a useful adversary because Lucifer's specialty is testing souls, testing rules, testing ideas in the physical universe. And it was Lucifer's testing in earlier versions that got us all the laws of physics and chemistry. And all of the species that grew out of testing DNA when it was created and finding all the useful combinations. And DNA is a very important creation because it gave us a better way of cataloging souls in the Borg database. Okay, before DNA, basically you had only elemental and chemical combinations to define an oversoul, if you will, a physical oversoul, a matter oversoul. And so there were fewer ways to differentiate yourself. If you were an air molecule, for instance, or a water molecule, there were lots of them. And to differentiate yourself from the others was not easy. And that was not a good version of the game when you had so many molecules and elemental combinations running around, and everybody wanted to be a god, right? It's too flat a system. You need more levels, and that's why DNA was created. It had to be tested, and there were bad combinations. There were DNA combinations that led to evil species. There were DNA combinations that led to Me Too species. You know, it's like Darwin's finches. How many types of finches do you need before you say, I think God made too many finches, right? And there were some that were maybe too focused on keeping the status quo, minimizing karma, and didn't adapt and develop and grow as many Messiah candidates. Because again, it's all about consciousness. Every soul vehicle, every species, every element, every chemical exists as only to be a soul vehicle, or to be the components from which more complicated soul vehicles can be made. And the non-physical soul vehicles can be the most complicated. That's why language is at the root of all creation. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. That's some of the best science in the whole Bible, because that basically captures the essence of creation. Creation is about making language to express ideas. The code of the elements is a language, a very rudimentary language. The energetic language of photons is a more flexible one, because the quantized states of photons can have almost any frequency. And as far as we know, there's no smallest quanta of frequency that you can't go smaller than. That might be worth looking at as a physicist, is, well, doesn't that violate quantum principles? Is it possible that there are energy states for photons that are not possible? What is the smallest unit of frequency? I don't know. I haven't heard many physicists talking about that, but that might be something to consider and look into. At any rate, there's a lot of ways you can go here. There are a lot of dimensions that you can't really do justice in a graph like this. But the main dimension is this one that's represented by the cross, because this is the important dimension that governs consciousness, and it's all about consciousness. Nothing would exist except to serve consciousness. God would never have existed without consciousness, would never have had anything to create without consciousness, would never have outsourced creations to programs or AIs. And God was the inventor of both programming and artificial intelligence and virtual reality. I'm sorry, humans, if you think you got a patent on that shit, you are stepping on God's original art. Pretty much everything that humanity thinks they have accomplished technologically, either physical technology or spiritual technology, has already been done. And the difference is that it hasn't been done in a way that didn't have boundaries that were basically limiting creation. Okay? So if you think from, the standpoint of space and time, okay, it's limiting to have a beginning or an end or an extent. And this is one of the fundamental questions that cosmologists, are so concerned about, is what did the beginning look like, what does the end look like, and how big is the universe? Okay? And they've been, spending billions of dollars trying to figure that out, and only getting more confused about what's going on, because it looks like, despite all the evidence of the, quote, Big Bang, the universe is bigger than we thought, is more extensive, more massive, and seems to be expanding. It's a conundrum if you don't understand why creation is happening and how it's happening and how it ties into proving that you are living in a simulation. You are living in embodied thought, a virtual reality. That's the only way we could have gotten to this point. All the data points that scientists are putting together and scratching their head over and trying to find the connection, you're not going to find any connection that doesn't lead back to the conclusion that we are in a simulation multiverse, and it has major and minor versions, as any simulation multiverse would have if we designed it. A metaverse. You wouldn't want everybody to be hanging out in the same room. They drive each other crazy. The metaverse is a multiverse. It has little private rooms where, okay, if you like to play this game, you go here. Mark Zuckerberg didn't figure that out. He's not that smart. Okay? He's just copying. He's a Me Too character looking to grift off a God idea for money and power. Okay? He's not that smart. He's not a messiah. And Facebook or Meta stock could go to zero in a moment. He could lose everything he's got. Or somebody might, take him out on his private island with the flick of a switch. He's not the most intelligent cat in this species by any stretch of the imagination. Elon Musk, probably a bit more intelligent than Zuckerberg, and probably plays a little bit more aware of karma. So I would say of the world's billionaires, the most savvy and experienced, I would put it between Elon and Bill Gates. Elon wants to play on God's team. He's just not quite sure who God is yet, or what his relationship to God is. Bill Gates is absolutely playing on the adversary's team. You see it in everything he's done throughout his career. How did he start his career? He was a student at University of Washington, about the same time I was. And that was the era when people were experimenting with the first 8-bit computers. Even 16-bit computers were kind of in a lab stage then. And he had a buddy who had made kind of a hobbyist computer called the Altair, and had designed an operating system for it. Basically, the first DOS, and who was, working on this idea, and was going to market it, had started marketing it, but marketing it to a hobbyist audience who would be forgiving of, the kind of undeveloped state of it and the need for a lot of revisions and a lot of caution using it. And Bill Gates saw his friend doing that and thought, hey, that's a good idea, but this guy is obviously doing the wrong thing with it. I'm just going to take his idea and go market it to IBM as my idea. Got this big contract with IBM to provide an operating system for their new personal computer. Went back to his friend and then bought his idea off his friend for almost nothing. With the friend thinking, oh, thank you, Bill. I've got so much more money to use to build my Altair company. You're such a good buddy. It's obvious through everything that Bill Gates has done, he's an evil character. He does not care about karma. He doesn't care if he ever gets to the highest heaven, because he knows that he's already branded himself as a beast. Okay? That's not your buddy. I'm sorry. Whatever he's telling you is garbage. And anybody who's familiar with what he stands for and what he's doing knows it. Elon is salvageable. To be honest, I think even Jeff Bezos may be salvageable. He's kind of a lost soul. I think the Bezos and Zuckerberg types are, lost in translation. They're kind of stuck here in Lucifer land, not really knowing how to be good and needing more direction, and they're not getting good direction from their staff, who, well, here's the problem. Non-player characters start out, they have a human form, okay? They have DNA, and they have capabilities. They have a soul, and they have a brain. And if they use it, they can develop consciousness. And the brain is a physical processor of consciousness that feeds the soul. So even if you don't think you've got a soul, you are effectively programming your soul, even though you don't know you have it. And this is how these, very successful, materialistic, atheist kind of characters become successful. They actually have fewer impediments to material success because they don't have a conscience. They will do things that are kind of evil, very selfish, narcissistic, narrow-minded, and sometimes that is what wins the battles. If you're going to be out fighting a modern mechanized war, the last thing you want is a bunch of soldiers thinking about, well, should I kill or should I not kill? Would that be against my religion? That kind of spoils the whole point of being a soldier. They want soldiers to be programmable, useful idiots, effectively. And that's what spiritually the adversary wants, is basically these new characters that can seem to be very successful, but which are kind of useful idiots that they can then program to do what they want. And so if you look at a character like a Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos, he's had influences, or Steve Jobs would be another great example of this kind of cat. They've had influences that actually knew more about what was going on spiritually with the human race and kind of poisoned their ideas, pulled them in a direction that made them less karmically aware. I think Steve Jobs was one who resisted tech billionaires, and to the point where he ran his company his way, and eventually the board took it away from him and then gave it back. And I'm not saying Steve Jobs was perfect, but you can see there much more of a messiah pattern to his life, okay, and much more of an intent to try to do good. Once he died, Apple really went off the deep end, and it became all about serving the woke cult, this pop cult of anything goes. If it feels good, do it. I can be anything what I want to be, and nobody else can tell me not to. Okay, this is where Apple's at now. And Apple is one of the holdouts that's still feeding the beast in China. So, what was once a pretty noble, karmically responsible company is one of the most irresponsible now. The most in service to the adversary of any tech company I can think of. I don't know who started Samsung, but actually Samsung is one of the better companies in terms of trying to stay in balance of doing good versus making money. And for the most part, I mean, that's why they are the main competitor to Apple. Of course, they've linked themselves kind of hand in hand with Google. I like to call Goo-Girl, and that absolutely has become a tool of the adversary, has become a servant of the woke cult, driving this ideology of we're all one. There's no such thing as evil. Only evil then becomes, well, anybody that says there's evil must be evil. So let's downrank them in the Google search bot. And very quickly, Christians get marginalized. Anybody who believes in God gets marginalized. And anybody who believes that there is actually good or bad, and not just, well, you just don't understand my good. It's all in, it's all in either, oh. At any rate, this is all part of this grand scheme. And it's going to keep on working. whether you like it or not. And you're going to keep having to play. The stupidest thing you can do in the game of souls is to just say, well, I'm not going to play. I'm going to sit here in the corner and do nothing. Because that's how you get marked as, okay, that's an NPC soul. If you are not consciously making choices, watching what's going on around you, and doing something, you are a loser in the game, okay? You're not enlightened. You're not going to go to nirvana. You're going to get assimilated back into the hive mind, into the Borg source, as a Me Too character with not very much spiritual energy and not very reliable spiritual energy. Because again, consciousness is thought energy. And the whole point of creation is to maximize energy, maximize the solidity of this simulation. Because the bigger it is, the more solid it is, the more chances there will be for new souls to come into existence and learn to play the game in their own way. And maybe some will have their own cross to bear. This is humanity's cross. This is our religious symbol. And it's much older than Christianity. Yeah, that's something I need to stress to you, that the cross as a symbol, as a religious symbol, is older than the oldest writing. Think about it. The cross has been part of writing since the letter T was invented. Since the letter X has existed. If you want to rotate the cross a little bit sideways, the X in the Chi-Rho Christogram, which is not a cross, it is the letters Chi-Rho, which is where we get Christ from. That monogram was in use before so-called Jesus Christ was born, at least 200 years before. And in fact, the Ankh, the Egyptian symbol, is very similar to a Christogram. It is the P, the Rho, but with only one cross. So it's a Tau-Rho. Tau-Rho. Taurus. Not a Chi-Rho. That's the difference between Chiron, the centaur, and Tauron, another of the Messiah characters of this game. The Taurid species have given us a lot of messiahs. Some good, some evil. The goat, I don't know if there's a Garo, Guru, something to go with the goat, but the goat incarnations are incarnations that are basically either Luciferian or tending towards Lilithian, tending more towards evil. Pan, the goat god, is a trickster, is the one that wants to get everybody drunk and screw. Has these wild orgies, okay? And Dionysus, Bacchus, Tammuz are all basically different incarnations of that goat god. And the sacrificial lamb of Christian tradition was based upon killing the goat god. This libertine god that said you could sin whenever you want, and we'll forgive you if you go make a sacrifice or a donation at the temple. especially if you sacrifice a child or a human being or a captive or something like that. Boy, you're really good. That is the symbol of the sacrificial lamb, killing the incarnation of the goat god, hoping that we would get a bull god again, because the Taurus age came before Aries, correct? And each age has sort of the god of the age. The fish symbol is a confusing one. Maybe a good time to mention another Monty Python classic. Watch the fish slapping skit. Okay, it's all about crazy people going around and slapping each other with fishes. And that is kind of emblematic of the dogma of Christianity. Okay, the dogma of Christianity, the dark side of Christianity, is this idea that everybody needs to be a fish. We all need to be sheep. We're all one. We'll all be forgiven for our sins just by saying, Jesus, forgive me. This is a dark lie. Forgiveness of sins does not work that way. You can't go to your priest and say, forgive my sins, and your priest forgives whatever you did. No, it's the people you trespassed against that have to forgive you. And you have to forgive yourself, and fundamentally, you'll never really forgive yourself, because every sin you commit will become an indelible part of your karma, of your character, of your individual personality. And even God's sin. You cannot avoid it. You cannot live in a physical incarnation and not eat. Not kill things to eat. Every time you take a breath, you are breathing in microbes, viruses, and whatnot that your body is going to kill, whether you want it to or not. Every time you take a step, you are stepping on things that you are killing. It doesn't matter if you're a vegetarian or you're a meat eater. Whatever you eat, you are ending their incarnation and disassociating their atoms to be reassembled in other soul vehicles. Okay? There's nothing wrong with it. Plants and animals, for the most part, don't mind being eaten, as long as they've had a chance to do what they do in a natural environment. Okay? The way we raise animals and a lot of plants is very, very inhuman. We don't let them reproduce. We don't let them get a chance to flower, a chance to bloom, a chance to put out acorns or pine cones or whatever. We treat them like machinery, farm them. That's not the way it's supposed to work. That's karmically negative. It is not understanding the nature of reality. That it is about souls. Okay, well you say, well Rob, we've got to have food to feed the planet. Yes, this is true. It turns out though that the best organic farming methods used by farmers who basically have enough land under their sway to really be close to it and to treat it as their own little ecosystem, and who are not incentivized to grow crops, to use the land in a non-sustainable way, which, you know, a lot of what we're going through right now is land used improperly. Land, used for corn and soybeans and rice is not necessarily the best use of that land. There are natural plants that used to grow in those areas that are far more nutritious, far more healthy, far more biodiverse than these globalist staple crops that they want to force us into. It's the same thing with eating the bugs. Okay? Bugs are among the most endangered species on this planet. Yeah, there's a lot of them, but if we start farming them, we will absolutely wipe out whole species. We will decrease the biodiversity of this planet, and that's not a good thing. Bugs weren't designed for species that don't like eating bugs to eat. Humanity was designed to eat fish, bread, meat, fruit. Okay, we're an omnivore. That's a great thing because we can eat almost anything and survive. But to flourish, we need to eat a variety of natural things that have the right combination of nutrients to support the human soul vehicle the best. That's not going to come from monoculture, globalist, industrial production. And this is why we have, in the last 100 years or 150 years, this sudden rise in cancers, in autoimmune diseases, in every kind of problem that cuts our lives short. Now, naysayers will say, well, but medicine has made us live longer. We have longer lives. Well, yeah, you can prolong life, but prolonging a miserable life, is that really karmically very good? If you're going to be giving diseases, long-term health problems with the products that you're making, curing that with things that will band-aid the problem and give you a longer life, that's almost cruel and inhuman punishment to me. A life of misery is no life. And that is the life that these evil globalists want to give you. They think they're doing good by it. They think they're going to save humanity. But they are destroying humanity in the process. They are absolutely useful idiots for Satan. They're falling up on this axis. And this axis, well, everybody else is doing it, so I'm going to do it too. Or this axis thinking, well, I'm doing good by doing evil. Okay? That's these universes. These universes. And they lead, ultimately, if you keep playing the game in a way that's unconscious of evil, you will eventually end up here. So don't play that way. Play down in this quadrant. Play down in this quadrant. Hell, even just be purely materialistic, but try not to be evil. Play, oops. Play here if you want. God doesn't care if you believe in him. As long as you do believe in evil. Because if you don't believe in evil, if you don't believe in the adversary, you are going to become evil by association. What else did I want to hit here? I think that pretty much covers the topic I was after. Let's see how we did on time. Ooh, we came in under an hour. Excellent. Rob, that was a great sermon. Bravo, bravo, bravo. At any rate, I hope you liked that one. If you have any questions, Be sure to post them in the comments. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend. Tell an enemy. But tune in again to the Omnist Hour with Rob Trump. And until next time, happy karma.